Assalamu alaikum everyone, and today we are going to talk about IUPAC Nomenclature of alkane. Yeah. I know what you're thinking. Uzair, you have a lot of general chemistry to cover. Why are you again just skipping all that and going to organic chemistry? Well, I'm not exactly skipping. It's just that we've learned a few lessons to start, learning a few lessons of O-Chem. So after organic chemistry, mix organic chemistry and chemistry up a bit. So don't worry, chemistry videos are coming. Next one would be something about phase changes or something. But let's start with a few organic chemistry stuff. Now, to learn organic chemistry, we have to learn nomenclature, which means how we refer to molecules by name. Now, before we begin that, I have to point something out. Is that in general chemistry, we're familiar with this condensed formula notation. That's no longer what we're going to use in organic chemistry lessons. Don't worry, general chemistry will still use these notations, not that large. But now listen to the fact that chemists are kinda lazy, but I'm gonna give them credit for that because they have to do experiments on labs a lot. So, go easy on them. So there's something called line notation to help us out. And it's this something like all the vertices or vertices are, corners. You'll learn that in geometry. And endpoints are carbon atoms, and all the hydrogen atoms are implied. And what I mean by implied is that they are there and they contribute to the amount of hydrogen, the carbon bonds they can, make. Let me make it easier and draw a Lewis-Dot structure, and molecular geometry would also be important here. So a Lewis-Dot structure like this, 5 carbon atoms, draw the octet or the valence electrons, get all the bonds, and the rest would be just hydrogen bonds. And this is how we can go with the Lewis-Dot structure. But instead of drawing carbon all the time, we can just make that a vertice or an endpoint to make it a little easier. Now, this is what it actually means. This is the hydrogen bonds. Now, if you aren't familiar with this notation of the dash bond and the wedge bond, let me explain this. The wedge bond is the one that I drew like this. It's like a very long right triangle, perpendicular, shaded. And this is the bond that is coming towards you. Now, what do you mean by towards? Remember our geometry when we talked about planes? Again, geometry playlist would be in the description, the link, and also the somewhere over here at the cards. So there we learned about planes, that a point can be on a different plane than the other point, but we can't detect it in a YouTube video because your computer is a plane, or even in a board, because a board is a plane. But when we use something like a volume, we understand what points are on what plane. Now that's where we use it. that the wedge bond is in the plane that is in front of the board. If you say that I am staring at the board, then this is coming towards you, and the dash bond, which is this, is further away from you, means behind the plane of the board, if you're staring at the plane of the board. And when we shift the sides or make it like switch all the sides, the wedge and dash bonds will also be switched. So remember that. Now there is a foundation called IUPAC which makes these rules, and sometimes these rules are arbitrary. And what rules, you ask? That's right, nomenclature. And here we have all these, you know, when there is one hydrogen bond, there is meth, eth, pro, and there's more than 10, that's for sure. But you have to memorize at least 10 of these. You don't have to memorize beyond 10, okay? And these are the prefixes. The suffixes would be ane. Now, we have something like this molecule, which we drew at first, and this has 5 carbon bonds, which is what's important in our nomenclature. 5 is pent, so the molecule's name is pentane. That rhymed, kinda. Now, usually you wouldn't have a molecule like that. You'll all have a branched hydrocarbon. Something like this. Here we have to identify the longest carbon chain, which is this. This is the longest carbon chain. And we have to number these carbon chains. And numbering them is very arbitrary, but you just have to go with it. So for this, we have to number from left to right. So we write 1, 2, 3, 4. And here is a methyl group. Because if we write methane at an alkane, by the way, these are alkanes. If we write one carbon bond, which won't be a methane because there are 3 hydrogen bonds, we wouldn't write it as methane because methane is CH4. So here we'll write methyl group so that we don't get confused by methane. And we write it and we also have to point the location in the IUPAC ID of the formula. And the location is on carbon 2, means this. So we write 2-methyl butane. Now let's look at part 2 for more of these molecule examples. But before that, you have to remember to subscribe to my channel to get more of these videos of stuff like, you know, I just started organic chemistry, and you might have been thinking that I have to learn organic chemistry. So if you didn't subscribe the last few videos, you missed out. And you don't want that to happen now, do you? So, to not miss out on these videos, you can subscribe to my channel, you can like and comment how my video is it helpful, or what you thought of the video. And so, with that, That's all there is to it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.